Cambodians gathered across the country to watch today's proceedings in Phnom Penh at homes, cafes, and community centers like this one.
The chamber finds Kang Kech guilty.
The former jailer for the communist Khmer Rouge, also known as Doik, watched stone-faced as his sentence was read. The 67-year-old was found guilty of overseeing the deaths of thousands of Cambodians in the late 1970s during the time of the killing fields.
The majority of the chamber sentences Kang Kech to a single sentence of 35 years of imprisonment.
The judges shaved off 16 years for time served and for Doik's illegal detention in a military prison. It was the first ever verdict rendered by the UN-backed tribunal on the Cambodian genocide. But it sparked anger among survivors and family members who were in the courtroom today, expecting a much longer sentence.
I'm not happy. My people are not happy. I'm angry once again. We suffered once under the Khmer Rouge, and now we are suffering again.
Thierry Sang, now an American human rights lawyer, lost both parents at the prison that Doik oversaw.
It comes down to serving 11 and a half hours per life that he took, which is just not comprehensible or acceptable.
Rob Hamill's brother was one of the few Westerners to die under the regime after his sailboat was captured by the Khmer Rouge in 1978.
All I can say is that my family, who are no longer here to see justice, would not want to see this man walk free, even if it's in 19 years' time.
When Doik's trial commenced 2 years ago, few Cambodians knew much about the International Court, which has 3 Cambodian and 2 foreign judges. 2/3 of today's Cambodians weren't even born when the Khmer Rouge were in power. The regime's kingpins are either elderly or long dead, including the reclusive leader Pol Pot. Their genocidal legacy, 2 million deaths, is memorialized in modest museums visited by Cambodian and foreign tourists. These include Tul Sleng, the high school Doik supervised when it was converted into a prison, where some 15,000 people died. Several non-government organizations and the court itself launched campaigns to educate the Cambodian public about the legal proceedings. Tens of thousands of citizens and school kids from around the country have been bussed in on field trips.
Hello and welcome to the 22nd program in our series Doik on Trial.
And for several months, as many as 2 million Cambodians tuned into a weekly TV show about the Doik trial.
Now we're going to see a selection of evidence given to the court about some of the crimes with which Doik has been charged.
Like the court, the TV series was funded by international donors.
Do you think the trial has gone well? The process has been pretty impressive. I've supported it because I was one of the victims. I was imprisoned under the regime.
The Khmer Rouge regime fell 3 decades ago, but the tribunal was slowed, first by Cold War politics and then negotiations with the reluctant Cambodian government, some of whose leaders were young Khmer Rouge lieutenants, although none will stand trial. Still, Chum Sirat, who helped start a group called the Victims Association, says the court sends an important message.
When you commit a crime, there will be people who try to put you, to take you into account. This is one of the lessons that young generation can learn.
Until recently, young Cambodians were never formally taught Khmer Rouge history. Yuk Chang, himself a killing fields survivor, has worked to change that.
This is the textbook for grade 9 and 12.
He's director of the Cambodia Documentation Center, which has published a textbook that's now in the hands of 1 million Cambodian students.
Start from the creation of the Khmer Rouge movement all the way to the fall of the Khmer Rouge in 1979.
Most kids growing up in this country have never learned about it.
They never learned about this, but they heard about this.
Yuk Chang hopes this knowledge and the publicity surrounding the court trials will finally help the country move on.
The court helped to put the past behind, and that give us the direction on where we turn next to the future. And the court put the past into perspective so that we can learn from it.
Even though most of Cambodia's 14 million people struggle more immediately with poverty and economic survival, the International Court is a critical building block for a sound democratic future, says Eric Stover, a California-based human rights scholar who has closely followed the court.
People will have basic needs and need to be attended to, but if you're going to have real progress, you also put in the infrastructure for democracy, infrastructure for the rule of law, infrastructure that will support human rights, because without that, you will always be in an uphill battle.
Yesterday, survivors and relatives held a ceremony to remember those who died at the prison. The prosecution and defense have 1 month to appeal today's verdict.